This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Rock, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! World champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby! They're the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
Ooh, what up? No, it is another Tuesday, and this is Knockouts and 3 Counts. And if you didn't pay attention to our social medias at KO3C Pod, well, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, if you did, you'd know that we're keeping the bangers coming because we've got the deathmatch legend himself, Masada. How you doing, brother, man?
Yeah, doing good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, man.
Appreciate
hey,
it.
yo, what up, Cody? Yeah, man. Like I said, So shout out to Chris from RPW because him and D-Mac are the ones that really put me onto you in the first place, because when we were doing the show to promote the RPW show down there at Harpos, you know, they were like, Darren was like out of his skin ready to see you do your thing down here in Detroit. So I was like, all right, I got to do a little bit of research. So like I said, it was good when I saw that you saw the clip of the show, because I ain't gonna lie, man, I don't know how it went over my head, but I remember when I was in high school and all the CZW stuff. And so, like I said, man, it's cool to come full circle, because I spent my Sunday sitting around watching old Tournament of Death shit. So it was not a bad time.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. And thanks for tagging me in that, by the way, because, like, yeah, that's how I found out about you guys. So that was very cool.
Hey, man, I'm glad you enjoyed what you saw, because you never know what'll come here, man. Sometimes we've had everything from wrestlers to fighters to bare knuckle guys to Chris Cale from 5 Finger Death Punch, who we're going to go run into down there in Vegas, man. So you never know who's going to come in the box. So, I mean, like I say, we try to keep it a little different here, but I've been doing my research to get ready for this. And number one, you know, I peeped the Texas flag, so I already knew what time it was with all that stuff. So tell me, what was it that got you into wrestling, and how do you get the name Masada coming from Texas?
So, I mean, I started watching wrestling when I was 5 years old. I used to come on ESPN every day. Like, you have the old territories. So Global was on AWA, World Class Championship Wrestling. So I watched it religiously as a kid, you know, and the name Masada, actually, my parents came up with that. It's Mount Masada in Israel. And if you don't know the story or not familiar with it, basically Rome wanted to take over, you know, basically this pavilion of people that lived up there. And once Rome figured out how to go up and enslave them, instead of being enslaved, they committed mass suicide. So that's where the name Masada comes from. So it has a story behind it. So basically, just like on a political scale, just me as a person, like, never going to sell out and never going to put up with anybody's crap, basically. So that's what
I like it. I like it.
That really is such a deeper meaning behind, you know, such a great wrestling name to begin with, right? I mean, like, you know, kind of imposes like all the thoughts and everything. But if you didn't know the backstory, which I was unfamiliar, you know, that it really does play into it well. Yeah,
and that's shame on me, because like when I started, I should have really like put that out in promos, but I'm not a promo guy. I'm more of an action guy. Just go out there and just beat the hell out of somebody.
Well, dude, you're not kidding. After what we saw in Detroit, man.
I feel like now that we've had the show with so many wrestling guys from both, what up, Joe? But from both sides of the, you know, the traditional wrestling behind the mic and stuff, and then more of the deathmatch stuff, it seems to be a lot of the case with the deathmatch guys, you know, that they lean that way. They would rather show action than, you know, work the mic their whole lives, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, it's like if you go like UFC, I'm more of like a Nick Diaz. Like, I don't want to talk. I just want to go do my thing. You know?
So I got to ask, because you brought him up, man, you know, what are your thoughts on Nick's run lately, bro?
I mean, the thing is, if he didn't get suspended and taken so many years off with the bogus crap that he's gone through, I mean, he would have stayed in top shape. And now it's kind of more or less like, I'm done with the politics of UFC, so it's whatever, you know. I'm glad that he and Nate are finally like getting their just due and making some money, you know. But in the day, I really would like to see Nick come back the way he was, 7 8 years ago. His last fight with Robbie Lawler, I wasn't impressed with it. Like, it looked like he didn't train the way he usually does. He had a bit of a gut. I did like the flying heel kick at the beginning. But
I think we all had a little more expectations for that fight than we should have.
He did such a great job of building it up for so long, right? Like, I'm gonna have this inevitable comeback, and it's gonna be amazing, and and then to kind of show up the way he did, Nate, both the Diaz brothers will always be full of the, I ran into this issue, so I just winged it and I showed up, and I respect it, right? Like we all do, but you can't. There's rumblings of him possibly making a return and stuff, and if he does, I hope it's really on his terms this time and like legitimate. If not, just leave us with the old thoughts. We'll just skip that. That Robbie Lawler fight for the most part. Have you been following the Nate thing at all? The whole peeing at the PI and all that shit.
I haven't followed anything. What's going on?
He pissed on the UFC PI the other day and posted a picture of it on Instagram.
Oh shit! No, I haven't heard anything about it.
In classic Nate Diaz fashion, right? I mean, come on.
He sounds like him, so
that's a classy move coming from that guy.
So I guess what they're all saying it's from is he's pissed because Nate has one fight left on his deal, and Nate's been saying he wants to fight. So him not being able to get in the cage, I don't know if that was just a thing to like piss off the UFC or what. Because honestly, I think at this point, Nate just wants to get that, go over there and see if we can make him some of that quick celebrity boxing money, low key.
Hey,
sure.
I ain't mad at him, dude. Get paid.
Yeah, for sure.
I got a question.
Man, anytime you're in the ring, dude, it's a bastard.
Back to the wrestling. I got a question. You said you were watching wrestling on ESPN. You definitely weren't watching Deathmatch Wrestling on ESPN. I know that for sure. So first of all, what got you inspired into professional wrestling, and who the hell got you into Deathmatch Wrestling of all things?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I broke out in '99, so hardcore wrestling, extreme wrestling was really popular at that time. So more or less like when you got in the business, that's kind of like one of the things you would do to get recognized. And then like I would watch ECW and FMW and promotions from Japan. It's like back in the tape trading days where you're getting on VHS, all this shit. But
the original trading cards,
crazy. Or even like the internet, how old it was. Like, I don't know, it sounded like your computer was possessed just to get online. But that's how old. But I would watch things like that. I was like, holy crap, that's actually cool. And I sparked my interest back into it. Because for a while there, it seemed like WWF and WCW is like more like kid friendly. And I just always liked combative sports. I was a big fan of UFC, like when it first started, when it was an open tournament of just styles clashes. It was like the original like true blood sport. Mm-hmm. But then when ECW came around, I was like, holy shit, like they're fighting barbed wire. Like, I like that. That's cool.
So I gotta imagine with that you've gone through and went back and watched all the stuff from FMW in Japan and shit too, man. With all the stuff with Terry Funk and Cactus and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like when I broke into business, that's the places I wanted to wrestle. I wanted to work for ECW. Unfortunately, it closed, and I wanted to work for FMW, and then it closed. So the next best thing was to go to Big Japan over there. So that's how that fell into play. And a lot of guys from FMW were actually working for Big Japan at the time. So it was cool to be able to wrestle guys that you actually watched on DVDs, moving a step up from VHS to DVDs.
So you mentioned a little bit about how you got, how you came up watching AWA and all that stuff. Well, that had to be wild for the fact that in my research, I was figuring out, it says you were trained by HBK, man. So,
yeah.
So tell me about that. That had to be cool with you coming up in the AWA, and like, what was it like training with him and Jose Lothario, right?
Well, no, I was training with HBK and Rudy Boy Gonzalez. I was training with them at the Texas Wrestling Academy. Before I even started training with them, though, my first trainer was Steve Obry, who was trained by Buzz Sawyer. So, like, training with him for a year and a half, it's like literally you just got your ass kicked every day and just stretch it. I learned a lot from him, a lot of high flying, and then when I went to HBK and Rudy Boy Gonzalez school, they more or less like polished me up and then really taught me psychology on why you do certain things and what makes sense. And then gradually, when going from there, working for NWA Wildside and Ring of Honor, I started really getting a real taste of how political and how politics are in wrestling. So, you know, everybody was trying to go to Japan, but they're trying to go to 0-1. They're trying to go to New Japan. They're trying to go to All Japan. And it's so cutthroat, but nobody was trying to go to Big Japan. And honestly, I always wanted to do blood and guts wrestling. So that's where I went. You know, a lot of people follow my career and they're like, this guy was just on Sunday Night Heat with WWE and doing NWA TNA explosion matches. And now he's doing straight up death matches in Japan. But
you ever pitch that? You ever pitch a deathmatch idea to HBK?
No,
I didn't think so.
Well, that goes right into a question I had with that. So obviously, we're going to get into that too. You mentioned working with Ring of Honor and all those things too, because anybody who follows our show, which if you guys are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. But we're big fans of Ring of Honor and all that too, with a bunch of past guests from there as well. But my question is, man, with you having been trained by Sean, you know, A, did you keep in touch with him much after that? And B, did he ever say anything to you about doing like all the deathmatch stuff?
Well, the thing is, like, when I came in and started training with him, he was already getting re-signed with WWF. So it was literally like training, and then he was focused on going back. And I didn't really get too much career advice from him, honestly. Rudy Boy, honestly, was the one that was telling me, he's like, yeah, you really shouldn't do it. And you're going to get typecast in that style. And at the end of the day, you're not going to have a long career. But I've been wrestling for 23 years. So I try to do things smart. Like, I go out there and seriously screw myself up, but, you know, go out there and wreck shop. But that's how I built my name. You know, that's honestly, like, if I didn't do that, like, I would still be probably struggling on the indies and just would have eventually quit wrestling altogether, you know, because it's a hard living, honestly.
I can only imagine doing that night after night, man. I mean, it's like I said, we just got to see you do your thing here with RPW and stuff here at Harpos. Tell me a little bit about that. That was your first time here in Michigan, wasn't it? What'd you think of the match, and what'd you think of Detroit?
Detroit's awesome. That's actually my second time being in Detroit. First time I wrestled in Detroit, I think it was like in 2011 or 2012 for Dragon Gate USA. And I remember playing his day. It was at some flea market, and I thought it was crazy, dude, because like they had like an area where they did like live shows and whatnot. And I was walking through the flea market, and then they had like a tattoo shop that was like literally right there, just tattooing people. It's like, shit, that's cool. Yeah, but like, this is Detroit, man. All right,
you get tattooed, barter, and watch some wrestling in the same building.
I wonder if we're talking Gibraltar Trade Center. That's what that sounds like to me.
That's what it sounds like.
Good old,
yeah, building's huge. Man. I wish I remember the name.
Joe said it might have been Hart Plaza.
Could have been. Anything happened here.
It very well could have been in Detroit. But what were your thoughts on your match that you just had here at RPW with Tommy Vendetta and the guys down with RPW?
It was cool. I mean, there's just like a lot of light tubes. I mean, kind of overkill on that, but at the end of the day, I liked it. You know, I like what we did. You know, I definitely want to come back and do more. You know. For sure. And that trampoline sucked.
Dude, I was blown away by
that was gnarly, bro.
I was like, what? I seen him pull that. I was like, what the hell is that? I'm relatively new to the deathmatch. Look, I'm the guy, I'll be honest. I told these guys before the show, I was doing some research today, just watching some YouTube videos on, I was eating lunch.
Yeah.
Huge mistake. Let's just say that. Terrible mistake. But I seen that damn trampoline last week or 2 weekends ago. I was like, what the? There's no way, dude. And then, you already know the story from there. It's rather crazy. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's up, man. I mean, but shit, man, flying back home, it's like, dude, I felt like I got punched in the kidney just by falling on the thing. Because it just kept bouncing. Like Tommy had already hit it, so he was already bouncing. And when I got on, it's like a double bounce.
Yeah.
I looked at the tape. I was like, it didn't even look that bad, but fuck, man, it hurt. Like,
so normal businesses have to deal with like a different form of innovation, right? Like you always have to innovate to stay current and make money in every given business, right? But innovating in your business is a lot different. Like how does how does trying to constantly kind of stay above the ball and stay on top of the hill work in such a a violent game like death matches all the time?
I think the thing is, like with deathmatch wrestling, especially now, it's like everybody tries to raise the bar. But honestly, if you just go back to like the old school deathmatch setups, things would be a lot better. And as far as like match structures, like be a lot better. Instead of like, oh, I got this crazy weapon over here and the guy's gonna fall through it. If the match, if you watch my matches in Japan, they were more based on like psychology and just like feuds. So I think American wrestling needs to focus more or less on that than just having all the craziness of guys using weed whackers or I saw something recently like with scissors and stuff. It's just that's overkill, man. Real overkill.
It's funny you bring up the weed whacker because I was going to talk about that since I was doing a little bit of my research. But before I ask you about that, speaking of weed whacker, shout out to our sponsor, Caudill's Lawn Service and Snow Removal. You need to get your shit right for spring and summer. Hit Cody up. He's your guy to it. The link's in the description. But why I wanted to bring that up. So I was watching a bunch of the old Tournament of Death stuff. Holy shit. Like, why the hell would anyone ever be like, yeah, let's get me with a damn weed whacker? Like, son of a bitch. Dude, like Jimmy Lloyd, I just was with him in Texas, dude. After WrestleMania, we saw him at the bar, and now I saw that, and the next time I see him, I gotta say, what the fuck were you thinking, dude?
Yeah. Exactly. And it's not even a good setup, man. Like, honestly, if somebody came at you in real life and like had a weed whacker, dude, you just grab the end of that thing and punch them right in the mouth. You're not. But
yeah, like I ain't letting you get close enough to get me with that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's such an interesting point, right? Because my side of the show, I covered more of the MMA side. I jumped into the wrestling world because of the show. And so with that being said, I've now went to a bunch of events, but a lot of the local indie promotions that, constantly keep pushing, they'll feature a lot of these death matches and stuff. So I've kind of dipped my toe just as much in traditional wrestling as I have now, death match stuff. And it's just such an interesting game that you guys are out there playing, and to hear your, experience level really speak to like you think it should be more psychology based than like, crazy stunts jumping off of high points and stuff like that. Like it's a real mind flip for me to like, because that is kind of what I've traditionally seen in the deathmatch scene is just, crazy, light tubes a million and stuff. But to your point, I could see where, actually like, thinking it's an intimidating match instead of just like, action would be more appealing, especially for somebody performing it.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, it's like you compare it to like a movie. You could watch like an action movie that has all these crazy explosions and shootouts and stuff, and then by the end of it, it told no story, and you got literally behind no characters, and it's a movie you're never gonna watch again. But if you watch something that has drama behind it and like character base and rivalries, like holy shit, yeah, I definitely want to see the sequel to that. I mean, that's just my opinion.
We got some questions for you.
I mean, there's a reason why ECW works so well because it had so many stories and feuds and rivalries, and you need it. There's a reason why WWE
subplots too. Like their shit had like little branches to every story too. So it wasn't just like the feud. You had the feud, and then there was like the sub feud with it.
Yeah.
It makes the matches real for sure compared to just seeing two guys walk out and do their thing type deal.
Yeah, and it's like, well, why are they doing it? There's got to be a reason why they're breaking tubes over their head. It's not like, hey, like just doing it for sheer fun of it, but because it's not fun. It's not funny.
I mean, look, number one, I don't think I'd ever. Hold on, go ahead.
That's another great point as somebody with all the experience. To note, to say that it's not fun, like you would think to do that type of thing, you would have to find it fun. I guess you know what I mean? And for you to say like, it's not fun, is like, it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it like goes back and it's like, there always needs to be a rhyme or reason for doing something. And at the end of the day, when it comes to like deathmatch wrestling or hardcore wrestling, the whole point of it was to show that professional wrestling is real, combative, like sports, and you can't fake getting hit with light tubes. You can't fake getting thrown in barbed wire. And the people that say like, oh, it's all like rigged or it's stunt stuff. It's like, man, it's not. Everything's legitimately real, and that's the whole point. Just get that aspect of it.
Wrestling is real. People are fake. We always say that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not really wrong.
Seriously.
Oh,
Majority of them are.
You're not wrong. Well, we got a couple questions for you when we're talking about things like weed whackers and things like that. Donald wanted to know how was biting the bullets from Akira at the Texas ICW?
Oh, that thing sucked. Yeah. That sucked, man. Like, yeah, when he made me look like Hellboy. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude. Well, that brings up as good a question as any. Like I said, we mess with Ring of Honor like that, and it's funny with the whole AEW thing because we're headed down to Vegas at the end of the month for Double or Nothing. So my question is, with you going from like Deathmatch to like a Ring of Honor to an AEW to stuff like that, how is it for you to have to like change? Do you have to do a lot of change up to your style and stuff like that? And like when you're going to a place like AEW, obviously we all know that Tony Khan's a guy who likes all kinds of stuff, whether it's ECW or whatever it might be. In any of these places that you went to, did you ever have anybody like, man, I saw that deathmatch stuff you're doing, and you got to be careful with that stuff if you're coming up here, or even if it wasn't that kind of stuff. But I mean, did they ever ask you a bunch of questions about that stuff, seeing your stuff before you come in?
Yeah, because like I say, the majority of the guys, the talent that are signed to contracts, like they know who I am, and even some of the agents, like I've had run-ins or worked with them with WWE tryouts, so they're familiar with my work. I mean, even Jerry Lynn, he's one of the coaches there. He was putting me over. He's like, man, I talk about you all the time. That you can wrestle and work your ass off. It's not hard for me to transition into like TV style wrestling or going into like a Japan strong style match or even like lucha libre or just whoever I'm working with, what the promoter needs or what I'm asked of, and I could do it. That's one of the things I pride myself on, being a hybrid wrestler, of just working any style. And if you watch everything from like the beginning all the way to now, it's like you can see how much my style has changed over the years. And then when you see me at like AEW Dark, where it's like that traditional American TV style wrestling, there's a big difference. So,
and I want to go back to you spoke kind of highly of your time in Japan and stuff and your trips over there and stuff. Like what made that time stand out so much beyond just your wrestling experiences and stuff like that? Was it like the time spent in just a foreign country, everything that's involved in that and stuff? Like, run me through that.
Yeah, I mean, things like that. It's like, yeah, definitely when somebody like respects you enough to bring you overseas and then take care of you and give you a full-time job. And then at that point in time, when I was working independence, even though I did WWE tryouts, and it was just hard to get paid, get paid money of what you're worth. And a lot of promoters in the United States back in those times, I'm sure there were quite a few others, they just didn't treat the talent like with respect, so going overseas, it's like, okay, well, this is actually a real legitimate business. And the take on wrestling there is way different than here. Like there, it's considered entertainment. So it's easy for me to just like be myself. Just like I said earlier, just go out there and just beat the hell out of somebody or get the hell beat out of me and just like, shrug it off. There's less politics. So that's what I really liked about it. And in the day, too, TV every week over there. I was literally wrestling every day.
Wow.
When it comes to like the United States, where it's like you maybe get like 2 or 3 shows a weekend, gradually it's like it's harder to find work and get paid what you're worth, and a lot of guys fizzle out. That's a big problem with it.
Yeah, you spoke on it earlier, being a long road. Like you had said, it can be strenuous when you're out there trying to actually work it. Especially, I see a lot of these guys, talk to them, a lot of them on the show and stuff. And to your point, yeah, you hear it in just like trying to keep up with the constant grind of the schedule to get get as many of these shows booked during the weekends when they are available, so they can, continue to pursue the dream.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing that's really tough. And the thing is, like, when I would go to Japan, it's like I would already know my full schedule. I knew exactly where I was going to be in the country, what the tour led up to, who I'd be fighting with, and that's what was cool. Other than like, say, like an independent show where you show up, you don't know who you're wrestling, don't know who trained them, or if they're going to put you in some crazy stipulation match, and you're not going to know anything until you actually your ring entrance music hits, and you're like, holy shit, they got all kinds of crazy crap out here, and I don't even know this guy. You know what I mean? That's where you really just got to keep it basic and just like, focus more or less on not trying to get severely hurt. I mean, you're going to get hurt regardless, but try to be as safe.
What's the most gruesome injury you've encountered for yourself?
I mean, dude, I've had so many like severe lacerations from glass. Like literally, shoot, earlier today, like I screwed my arm up before a Game Changer Wrestling at one of the tournaments, and literally there's been a piece of glass that's been stuck in there for about a year and a half. Today I just cut it because it just kept hitting the nail. It felt like it was grinding my bone, and I told my wife, I was like, man, I'm tired of this damn thing. Like, and literally it was half an inch by three quarters. Like it's big chunk of glass that doctors miss. So, it's out there.
What are we diagnosing, Doc? Was it?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, what
was it?
You ever like
tube? Was it the plate glass?
Oh, it was a light tube for sure. Yeah, it was a light tube.
I was gonna say, like, you ever go to like the doctor, get a physical, like your yearly physical, and your doctor's like, hey, dude, you got this piece of fucking glass in your fucking leg. what is this? Oh yeah, by the way, I do deathmatch wrestling, Doc. So don't mind that.
Right. No, usually I'm telling them, like, I even told them when I went to the emergency room for this, I was like, yeah, I think there's glass still in it. And they're like, no, I think we got everything out. And I told my wife, I was like, nah, it's still in there. And it gradually worked its way out. But today I finally had enough of it. It's like I'm taking a razor and I'm getting it out.
Hey, man, you know your body better than anybody else. And that brings up a good question with it. You mentioned GCW. That was one of the things that we had people asking in the comments. One of the questions we got for you was, what are your thoughts on like the progression of deathmatch wrestling? Because, like I said, you were around for the CZW stuff. You were there for the Tournament of Deaths and all those kind of things. And now you see GCW that's going everywhere and there's death matches, when they're doing their stuff and all that. What do you think the progression's been, and how do you feel about it as a whole?
I mean, honestly, I haven't really been focusing too much on Game Changer, what they're doing. I see little clips here and there, like on Instagram, but I haven't really followed anything. I'm mostly more or less just been focusing on the company I work for now, XPW. So with everything that's going on, like there's a lot of behind the scenes with certain promotions that, there's going to be feuding going on. So I leave things at that,
I got you.
So, you know what I mean?
Hey, dude, it's all good. I feel it.
I know things, like I said before, it's getting more story based and just going out there and being creative with death matches. Man, I've actually integrated a lot of things into the deathmatch scene that a lot of people are using now, and like literally, if everything I've come up with idea wise, I've only used about that much. So I have a lot of ideas, a lot of new things. And it's not so much as like raise the bar, it's just like be creative and different, like cool setups.
Yeah, with the bar being where it's already kind of set, it's hard, it's like to your point, it's not about continuing to lift this pole to an inevitable, ceiling. It's like you got to just build on what's actually the foundation of it and improve from there.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's like the thing, like I said earlier, it's like even with like the older deathmatch setups, like the thumbtack pits, those are cool because you can show the aspect of mat wrestling or high flying to throw the guy into the thumbtacks. But when literally you have the whole canvas like caked on the thumbtacks, you don't want to chain wrestle in that. You don't want to go down. You know what I mean? It defeats the purpose. But I don't know, it's just more you can actually throw into stuff, in my opinion. And I think this year and the years to come, you're going to see a lot more of hybrid wrestling psychology in it. At least in my matches,
even in my eyes, I understand everybody's got to keep their schedule and stuff, so they do it in a certain way to kind of keep with the schedule of the night and stuff. But One thing I've noticed that could be improved upon from kind of like a layman's term, from somebody who wasn't a wrestling fan to kind of, where I'm at now is the setups, right? Like who's pulling up, who's, pulling out what weapon, why are they doing it and stuff like that. To your point, like these guys come out to the, to the ring already a blaze of whatever whatever's going to happen in the match is already out there. Where there's no pull out, there's no mysterious under the curtain effect. I feel like that could be an area of improvement for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And that's like the thing, if you watch like setups like in Japan, or even if you get like old school, like with Puerto Rico death matches, the setups are always super cool. And that's one of the things that added to the mystique, like, holy crap. But like lately, I've noticed with a lot of the American indies, it's just like put as much shit as you can out there, and whatever happens. And it's just, I don't know, it's pretty lazy and reckless in my opinion.
I think maybe it boils down to the whole era of social media where everybody's just trying to get the biggest, best picture they can, which dissolves into look at how crazy our setup was. Look at how crazy the big spot was. But to your point, a lot of the mystery is where the magic is built, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like if you look even back in the old days, like with companies that were coming up, like they would always plug like the weapons and not the wrestlers. It'd be like barbed wire match, and it'd be Joe Schmo you never heard of and some other guy. And they're trying to use the weapons to actually sell the show. But at the end of the day, what sounds better, Sabu versus Terry Funk in a barbed wire match, or barbed wire match, and you have, like I said, dipshit number 1 and dipshit number 2. It's like nobody cares. Like,
yeah.
I take option number 1. Like, I've watched them all at this point. I definitely take option number 1. I would have loved to have been at any of that shit because that would have been a fucking massacre. Matter of fact, it's funny with us going to Vegas. The last time I was in Vegas, we ended up drinking with Sabu at Nerd Bar. Shout out to Johnny down there.
10 days, y'all. 10 days, we're out of here.
Damn.
Hell yeah, 10 days and we're headed to Vegas.
Enjoy your trip, boys.
Hey, man, you need to get your ass on a plane and show up on one of these, bro.
Hey, you ain't lying. You ain't lying.
Hey, I want to touch on something real quick, though. So when we were at RPW, dude, so me personally, like I said, I'm relatively new to the deathmatch scene, but I was the guy shielding my eyes, moving my seat, stepping back. There were fans, dude, crowding the ring. Like, the deathmatch fan base is so rabid and wild. Compared to like you said, like TV wrestling, like people get into it, but dude, people don't mind like almost getting hurt. You know what I mean? Like, what is going on? Like, have you seen wild fans like that all the time? Are they always that way?
I mean, not always. I mean, a lot of times, like certain promoters, like even in Texas, like they do death matches. You'll tell the fans, hey, move back, but I think it's just like how crazy the people are, man. Like if you go to Philly or New Jersey, like they're right there with it. It's just rowdy fans, that aren't afraid of anything.
The people in front of me literally had safety glasses in their pockets. Like they already knew what was coming. They put their safety glasses on. Like, damn, I should have did that, man.
Respect.
Donald, why am I not surprised that you would be right in the thick of that stuff, man? That dude is paying.
I missed what he said there.
He said he held I held the Bev while the Duke hit him with light tubes, dude.
Yeah, I seen that. I think I seen that picture on his Twitter or something.
Dude, the first time I ever encountered somebody doing light tubes at a show, I'll never forget it. It was at a Juggalo Championship Wrestling show, and I had just gotten leg surgery my senior year of high school, so I was still in a cast. It was at the Modern here and shit, and I'll never forget. It was Necro Butcher versus somebody, and I don't even remember who the guy was, but I remember they fought back to where we were at. And anybody that's from Michigan and knows the Modern, that there was a couch in the back of the room where they did like the concerts and stuff. So I was like, all right, I had my leg all propped up on a thing because, like I said, I was still in a full cast. They fight their way back there, and I'll never forget, dude. Necro Butcher went to smoke this dude, and I'm like, well, fuck, I'm not going to be able to get out of the way of this. And did the one and only thing he could do, and I'm like, well, shit. Just cover it up. That was my introduction to light tubes. That night was something else, man. Well,
Sure.
let me ask you about this, man. I was checking out AEW Dark a little bit earlier, man. You know, you had a match there with AEW. What were your thoughts on wrestling up there, man? And are you trying to keep showing up more on all these TV wrestling stuff?
I mean, it was super cool. Like it's almost like a reunion for me because a lot of guys are signed under contract there. Like I've worked with and like gone on the road with them. You know, I mean, nameless guys, but it was cool to be there and see everybody because a lot of them I haven't seen in years. And yeah, I mean, down the road it would always be cool to like go back. You know, I've reached out to them and tried talking to getting more work with those guys, but I haven't heard anything back. So you know, we'll see. Have to stay positive and stuff. But right now, like I said before, it's like I'm going to focus on what's going on, and I'll focus on the promotions I do work for, like Circle 6, XPW, and No Peace Underground. So,
well, tell me about that, man. So I was watching, like, again, like I said, I try to do my research on this kind of shit. But I was looking at some of the stuff you've been doing with XPW. I also, like I said, have been checking out Circle 6 because they were part of that show that we were just at with RPW and No Peace. I mean, how for you being around so long, how do you feel about the overall like scene as a whole, man? Because I feel like you're, like you just said, you're at multiple places at this point. Do you feel like with all the deathmatch stuff, do you feel like do you like doing that more now than the TV stuff?
I mean, the thing is, I like everything, but I mean, I do get burned out on like the death matches unless there is a rhyme or reason, for them, I actually really enjoyed like the XPW Rebirth show because I actually got to go out there, wrestle Rhino and wrestle Willie Mack, who are TV guys, and actually go show what's up, And then people watch those matches like, holy crap, there's no glass in this, there's no barbed wire. It's like, yeah, I didn't even needed that stuff. But I mean, it's always cool to make that transition, and it's always crazy for fans that follow my career because you can say like, oh wow, he just did American, TV match for AEW, and then weeks later he's at Circle 6 in LA doing light tubes and glass against Etiquette, and then the following week is in California doing like 4 death matches, and I just keep going, man. And that's one of the things they put over in AEW too. That I'm a cult figure in the deathmatch scene. I thought that was cool. They put that over, and the fact they put me over too as a veteran, because man, I've been wrestling for 23 years. And to go out there and actually still show I can go is important, because a lot of people thought like with the pandemic, like I wasn't wrestling, and a lot of people thought I retired. So it was good to go back on TV to prove a point that like, yeah, I am still working, even though I'm not working in any like mainstream indie company in the Northeast, like a CZW or whatever. Working in Tijuana, Mexico with a crash is a big deal. But if you don't follow Lucha Libre,
that was dope.
What I mean? Because I'm, like I said, I keep going. I haven't stopped, whatsoever. Like the pandemic screwed things up, but things are getting back. They're going. So I'm excited about that.
I mean,
yeah, Donald.
To dig back to what you were saying earlier, like to your point, it seems more respect driven nowadays. For somebody that's as tenured in their career as you are, it's all about respect driven, and where you can continue to find that and find good work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing is too with me, it's like there's still a lot of guys I want to wrestle with. Like originally in CZW, I was supposed to wrestle Moxley for the world title, but then he got signed to FCW, so that didn't happen. So we'll see. You never know, especially on the indie level. And the cool thing with AEW, they're letting their guys that are under contract go and wrestle for other companies. So that is something that's actually really cool that they allow.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Like, as somebody who is yet again so tenured, what's your thoughts on that? Like, really becoming a thing where there's yet again a kind of solid number 2 that's putting on, consistent good work and stuff. And not only that, they're allowing their talent that they've invested money into and stuff to build their brand with go out and then help, all the other companies out there that they're allowing their guys to work for. It's,
Right. Oh, I mean, I think the thing is Tony Khan is like really smart to the wrestling business, and you're hiring these indie guys that have international experience and like actually listen to what they have to say. And then, like I said, the majority of the guys that left WWE that are actually agents and coaches there, at some point in time we're on the independent scene, so they're letting the guys work. It's not the WWE format of just we're going to tell you what you're going to do and you're going to stick to that. They're actually letting them be themselves, and that's cool because they already have so many fan base. They already have a fan base that comes in, and I think it's cool too with AEW that they actually give credit to the deathmatch scene of giving exposure like Nick Gage, myself, Ricky Champage, and actually giving us some time on TV. Even though it's not their cup of tea, it is cool that they still recognize what we've done. That's cool. That's
Yeah, it's definitely a respect thing yet again, but it's for them to like Kenny Omega, for instance, right? Like he was their active champ for how long and was actively displaying other companies' belts week in, week out, on every one of their shows for the most part. Like that type of stuff, except for like certain instances in the past, is like basically unheard of in the modern era of wrestling. So like to see that kind of stuff come out is like it was crazy. It still is really for what they're allowing.
I mean, the cool thing is if you go back in history, like even with like WCW and Ultimo Dragon, at one point in time, he had 9 different championship belts from different promotions, and they allow that on TV. That's where it's cool because they're keeping an open mind. Like, hey, we're not the only promotion, but we're actually showcasing other people's brands, and that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you love what's going on over here, guess what? Now we got that, and then also what we're bringing. It's like yet again. I say it almost every episode nowadays, but rising tide lifts all ships. And the wrestling world's huge about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless
and it's cool. I mean, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. You know what I mean? For every fan base, people that like high flying, they can watch AEW, or they want like hardcore wrestling, they can watch it, or everything. They have every little detail of every style. But then you watch WWE, and it's the same big guys that have been fighting each other for the past 10, 15 years, and we've seen this before.
Yeah, swap out a face. Swap in a face, swap out a face, build a story for 2 months, and then flip the script, and then
and then throw our titles on the desk and leave.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, dude, we just got a comment on Twitter asking what his thoughts were, with the whole Sasha Banks thing. So, have you seen any of the news on that stuff?
No.
So essentially what happened, in a long story short, if it's for real or whatever, like I said, they're saying it is. And WWE already put a thing out about it, but Sasha and Naomi went in at the beginning of Raw last night because they said they felt uncomfortable with 2 of the people that were in the match, threw the titles on the table and dipped.
Oh, wow. I mean, it could possibly be true.
I mean, I'll say this: if it isn't, you don't see WWE usually make a statement that quick, much less start burying them while they were already still on the air on commentary and shit too. So, I mean, I don't know. If it isn't, they're doing a hell of a job.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, dude, wrestling is like so big right now. It's like I was talking about this earlier. It's like literally guys that are in NXT or even on either one, SmackDown or Raw, if they get fed up with the system of things, they can easily walk out and quit. Like, look at Moxley. He quit and went to New Japan and AEW, and people have those doors open. If you would have said that maybe 6 years ago, ain't nobody going to quit their job. No one's going to quit WWE because that's the stepping stone. That's like the main ultimate goal is to go and work for. And now that people know that there's other doors and other options, they're going to take them. And honestly, in the day, I think it's probably better for them anyway, because a lot of people have wives, they have kids, they have families, and they don't want to be on the road every freaking day. You know what I mean? That gets old. You're going to burn out a lot of people like that, and that's what we've seen happen already over the past several years. If you can go AEW and do 3 tapings in one day on a Thursday and then go home for the rest of the week, or you could be on the road every day. Which would you rather do? I'd rather do the 1 day taping and go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that ain't nothing for you. You done fucking deathmatch tournaments, dude.
Well, I mean,
One day.
well, wrestling in Japan, I wrestle in death matches every day, you know, so I kind of got to take like a full on.
Hey, shit to you. You got that.
All right. Well, you brought it up, J Bone. So we got to talk about that a little bit. So, like I said, I came up watching the Tournament of Death stuff and the I can't remember the name of the cage. Damn it, the CZW cage that they had. Son of a bitch. I'm drawing a blank. But I came up Cage of Death.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, damn. Why do I feel like that's not it? But I was just watching one the other day. But point being, for those who maybe may not be up to the stylings of CZW, what are your, when I mention Tournament of Death or the Cage of Death, what are your memories of doing the Tournament of Death? Do you have a favorite one or any favorite matches and all that good stuff?
I mean, the thing is, I liked all the Tournament of Death that I was involved with. The Cages of Death, like, man, a lot of that stuff was like, I wouldn't say nerve wracking, but it's more or less like we didn't know what we're stepping in until like the whole thing was set up. People could explain like, okay, it's going to have this and that. And before you're actually out the curtain, then you're seeing everything of what the contraption is like. Holy shit. You know what I mean? But, I wouldn't even say like I have a favorite like Tournament of Death or really anything. I mean, they all kind of blend into one for me. And that's pretty much it. I mean, honestly, I would say as far as like tournaments go, Pains the Limit Freedoms in Japan meant more something to me than the tournaments I've done in the States. Because I literally did a 3-year program with Jun Kasai where we wrestled for years in Big Japan and like, literally he was constantly like winning. He was constantly beating me. And then when I go to Freedoms, like we go to the finals and I finally beat him for the first time after fighting for so many years against each other. The following year, we wrestled the first round. I beat him again. The third year, he talks like basically, if I don't win this tournament or beat Masada, I'm going to retire. So they actually had that story of like what I was talking about earlier. That's what really sticks out in my mind. You know what I mean?
Dude, it's funny you bring him up. Did you get to watch the thing they did on Vice with him on the Dark Side of the Ring stuff?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, man, he was in one of the dark side of the ring ones. That's where I got hip to some of his stuff. And man, just watching him put together some of the shit that he would use in those matches, and then they like showed his wife during some of the matches and shit, and I'm just like, man, this dude is fucking gnarly. So to know that to hear you say that with having that long of a feud, first of all, I love the fact with the story element to it, number one, because I tell that Corey could tell you, when I was trying to put him hip to like the kind of stuff that I like in wrestling and stuff like that, that's the stuff that makes you watch it. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody likes to see a good car crash every once in a while, but at the same time, like when you can see two guys or whoever beating the shit out of each other, but you understand, like, there's whatever the issue is, whatever the issue is in the feud or the story, there's a reason why they're fighting. Like, that makes it 100 times better. And to see stuff like that done in death matches, I feel like Japan was like the first place I really ever saw it where you could see, like where they're working up to this stuff versus just kind of, just bam, 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 just bust everything that's in the ring.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I mean, even in Mexico, if you follow Lucha Libre, like they're big into death matches and building stories and doing the crazy, like, hair versus mask matches and barbed wire and those matches are brutal. You know what I mean? Like if you go into certain arenas in Mexico, like you'll see pictures that are like literally posters that are imprinted into the wall of like matches and fights from like the 50s and the 60s. And like, it's really cool that they kept that tradition of their style together. I think it's badass, especially like when it comes to wrestling history.
Yeah.
But like Japan's the same, that's why I kind of think, like I was saying before, it's like America needs to get back on that same page. You can have the car practice, but at the end of the day, you're going to forget about it. And it's like, what's next? What's next?
Is it just a culture thing, you think, that like everybody here is just wanting, the TikTok generation where it's, 10-second videos, so they don't want the build of anticipation and stuff, or,
I think it's
or
that,
in other places it's, like to your point, they still have posters up of 60, 70-year-old matches, and they're like, this is what
Right.
we
Well, I
love
think
still.
it's not like the promoters. I think the promoters are really new to the business and they don't fully understand sometimes what they're booking. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to be a promoter and then I want to do death matches or have something, but don't really have an idea of like how to, put that talent and that psychology and storyline telling into what their product is. And it's more or less like you said before, it's just like, we're going to focus on TikTok and put all this crazy stuff out here and get some exposure off of that. But end of the day, people kind of fizzle out of it. You got to hook your fan base in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of getting hooked in and all that stuff, J-Bone was with me. Corey was at home sick when we were there for RPW, but that wasn't the only thing that was going on that night. See, we had the damn phones up trying to make sure we could see what was going on with UFC 274 and all that good stuff with Oliveira and him missing weight on the scale and all that. So do you get to keep up much with like the current scene and like what are your thoughts on Oliveira and who you want to see him fight for the lightweight belt?
Yeah, Oliveira's badass. Like he's crazy, man. Like he's got the whitest teeth I've ever seen in my life, dude. The thickest glass is like, holy crap. I remember the first time like in the fight, I remember telling my wife, I was like, I think he's blind. Like he's gotta be. Because I mean, dude, they're thick as my phone. And comes out and he smiles, but then like he's one of those guys, one of the fighters, like in the first round, he goes in like first gear and the guy kind of kicks his ass. And then like the second round, he turns to the third and fourth and just dominates these guys. I would honestly love to see him fight Khabib if Khabib would come back. That'd be a hell of a fight. Mm-hmm. I would say Conor McGregor, but the thing is like his ground game is just like so like on a level, like he would easily like choke out Conor.
I don't think Conor wants that smoke, dude. That's not the fight.
He doesn't want to get that, there was so many years till he finally fought Khabib, man, and that's because Khabib actually called him out. And he says he wants it again, but I don't see that happening.
Let's call it what it is. I think when it comes to the Conor sweepstakes, I mean, the one thing that you got to say when you're talking about Conor at this point is it's like Conor does pro wrestling better than half the pro wrestlers these days because the thing of it is when you think about that it's even a real option that he could come back and fight Oliveira. Yeah, the man hasn't won a fight at 155 in 8 years, but yet we're talking about it as though he's going to come back and fight the champion. Talk about being able to talk yourself into a spot. So if there's one thing I will say, even though I think Conor will get his ass whooped by Oliveira, I think I will give all respect that it's due that he's still able to keep himself in the running for that shit when he can't even walk right yet because his legs snapped in half. Like
the real thing is, right, and you always have to ask it, and that's the thing with combat sports is, would you like to see it? For me, as a hardcore somebody who watches fucking everything, a fight degenerate still, I would love to see it. I'd love to see the fucking matchup. So like, what's the argument?
Yeah, and like you said,
he can be on that fight skid, but it's MMA. Anything could happen.
He even stole Vince McMahon's walk, like so. He's on it. That's his now.
Man, I've said it for years. He is tailor fucking made for WWE. Like whenever he does decide to stop fighting, like if his goal is to solely get money, you need to go over there and pick up that WWE check because Tyson Fury's about to cash in on that sumbitch later this year in England. I mean, they just packed 94,000 in for his last fight, and now they're gonna come back over with WWE and him. That motherfucker is about to make bank. I don't even need to see what he gets paid. He's about to make bank.
Yeah. Dude, big payday.
Tyson Fury's awesome too, man. Like, I really like his fighting. He's another funny. He's a character, man. He's all about it.
And he can bang too. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think fighters like that, it's like you get that blue collar fan base. It's like, oh yeah, it's a working man, and like people respect that. It's kind of like when it goes back to like Conor fighting Nate. It's like Conor's like this rich, like prissy guy, and then Nate's just like this blue collar, like thug. It's like, yeah, I want to see that fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We need that.
I
trailer
still
you
say
got
that
there.
needs to be the fight that Connor gets when he comes back. Connor keeps talking all this shit about who he wants to fight. If I were him, that's the fight to make. If the UFC is trying to make the most money that they're going to be able to make on Nate Diaz before he gets out of there, run that fight one more time, because it does one of two things. Even if Nate does win, you're going to make a bunch of money. But think of it this way. If your goal is just to kind of like stomp on any of his, like value, if he loses to Connor and then goes and that's the last fight on his contract, it's a win-win for them too. But all I know is I would think most MMA fans, that's probably the most said Connor fight that anybody really wants to see.
It's because we know what we'll get, right? They're like, you put the two of them together. We've seen it now, for the third time, or second time, and it was a great fight. It's always going to be a great fight, but you put the two of them in there. Realistically, for Connor, it's a winnable fight, so it makes sense in that regard. But you bring up like the blue collar fandom. I feel as though one that's not getting spoke of enough is Glover Teixeira making his title defense coming up in 2 weeks now. What's your thoughts on Glover finally working his way up to a belt, getting to that point, and now here he is immediately taking on the new young hot shit in Yuri Pahashka.
No, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's cool. Like anytime you see fighters come up and then they finally get their just due and respect, like that's cool. It's cool to watch, and it's great. And it makes Dana White look awesome because he's actually paying attention to like his talent. That's a big plus.
It's true.
Hey man, like I said, I love seeing Glover do well. Like I said, I've been following him since he was on the Tap Out show back in the day. But speaking of all that stuff, man, it's crazy, man, when you think about what you're seeing in fighting now, because it's like, I think now more than ever, like especially back in the day. I mean, I think there was always a level to be said for like showmanship, because even when you think back to like Ken Shamrock when he was fighting in the tournaments and stuff, when he came out with like the robes and stuff like that, it's funny how much now you could be like the best fighter in the world, but it almost seems like the further we get, into the future, if you can't talk people into the seats to some degree, even if you're the best fighter in the world, it's almost like you can still get passed over, where before it was all fights and stuff. So like I said, it's just interesting how in the same way we were talking about wrestling has changed, the way fighting has changed with that is just crazy. Because look at GSP. GSP was in fucking Captain America. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, to your point though, right? Like you look historically in boxing and stuff, and the most his record being what it was and respected for a reason and stuff. But the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali, he was definitely behind a hot mic more than once. Like he made his name by also stating I am the greatest, like he was out there in his day, and I feel as though that's a big reason why he's still brought up to the respect that he is because he brought that respect upon himself.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. That's like, even if you look at Rampage Jackson going back on the MMA, it's like he was yard dog and like cage fighting, dude. That's what it was. He admits to it.
Dog, dude. That dude was a dog.
That's a great example, really, because to your point, a ton of
Rampage did cross into wrestling too.
Yeah, a ton of old school fans and people like just in general still bring up Rampage because that character that he it wasn't even really a character. It was like, I'm gonna do this and I'm fucking Rampage Jackson, I'm gonna rip down the door and do the shit that he did. Yeah, it's a great.
Look what he did to Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell was a killer back then. He came in and fucked Chuck Liddell up, and no, I don't think there were very many people at all that were expecting that to happen back then at the time. Which
I was very sad that night. Not gonna lie.
Hits the howl immediately following it. Like he had to have had some inspiration from pro wrestling. He had to have known what he was doing, whether it was like just the excitement of expressing it. He knew what he was
Entertainment value, dude.
Look, dude,
Entertainment
he had
value.
entertainment value, and at the end of the day, like we've said, those who can talk people into the seats are money. And speaking of money, shout out to our other sponsor, G3 Payroll Tax. Make sure if you can get your taxes done, all you motherfuckers that keep bringing your shit to me at the at the post office, go see Jack and get your taxes done. But before I let you get out of here, man, we've got this segment that's brought quite a few interesting answers to it. So it kind of skews whether it's a fighter or a wrestler. We call it locker room etiquette. Now, usually you would think that means like trying to find like the inside stuff and all that too. But this can either be something that you would give as an advice to younger guys coming up, or it could be some of your pet peeves. Some of them we've gotten have been wash your balls, keep your baby mama out the locker room, bring your own wrist tape, bring your own squirt bottle. Ninja Mac was just on with us. He said, don't be too lazy to get in the ring and keep working. Silas Young told us, don't get too comfortable with people. If you had any pet peeves or things that you'd throw out there, what would it be?
I think the main thing is like keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Like that's the old school like rule of thumb. I don't really have any too many pet peeves in the locker room because most of the time I'm in the locker room, I'm in there by myself. So, I guess interact with people and be professional. I mean, that's the best thing you can do. End of the day, it's like your life is in their hands. If they don't like you, they could drop you on your head. So,
You're not lying, dude. You're not lying. Well, but, since I know you're such a big MMA fan and we've got to talk about it coming up here. There you go. Somebody coming in on YouTube. There you go. But with that being said, what are your thoughts on the last one? I guess I'll leave you with is we'll give you first crack at this Volk Holloway fight. Who you got in this one? You think Holloway finally gets his dub or what?
I don't know. I would like to see that. Holloway's badass, but yeah, it's just UFC is such a coin flip, man. Like those guys train every day. I mean, anybody can be beaten. It's just who's better that day. So, I mean, I hope Holloway pulls it off, but who knows, man? We'll see.
Yeah, Volkanovski's looked so dominant in his title run besides the Holloway fights. Like those, me personally, I scored both for Holloway. So, like, now going into a third one, it's like, I've seen it twice, and I hate to say it like that because it is the matchup that I feel is most deserving and so on and so forth in the division. But Volk's look so great against every other contender. I wish the other contenders were being as active as Holloway was. So there was more of the reign of Volkanovski because he's done a great job as a champion. But I hope Holloway pulls this off, but it's such just murky waters because we've seen it. We've seen how this fight's going to play out. To my point earlier with like the Conor and Diaz fight, it's like we know it's going to be an action-packed fight. I don't know if there's going to be a finish. In the way that the judges keep leaning, it seems as though something Volkanovski is doing is garnering the respect of the judges. So unless Holloway gets a finish, which Holloway is known for beating the shit out of people, but not necessarily finishing them. So it's like, I hope for a different outcome. I hope for just the entertaining ass fight, but Holloway is still my champ. So I don't know. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey man, like I said, I think Holloway's coming in to knock Volk's fucking head off after the way the last two fights.
I hope so, dude.
I see him coming in trying for a finish, dude, somehow. Because if he doesn't finish him at this point, I mean, at the end of the day, I think he won the first two fights too. But if he loses this one, hot damn, that's 3 strikes, you're out. And I mean, on Volk's side, if he doesn't beat Holloway, that's going to be like the proverbial monkey on his back. So if he really wants to go up to 155, like they're talking, he's going to have to get that taken care of. But dude, we've been flapping our gums for a little over an hour. If there's anything you want to throw out, anything you want to promote, or let people know where you're going to be at or where they can find your stuff or all that stuff.
Well, I mean, this weekend I'll actually be in Orlando facing against Gangrel for Circle 6 and No Peace Underground. Check those promotions out. Next month I'll be back at XBW, Beautiful Disaster, and check out Exiled Artifacts. I make custom knives and leather work, all kinds of different things. So check me out.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah,
You gotta
man.
go
Well,
back
I'm gonna have to
to
keep an eye on when you're
Is-
out there, dude. Like I said, we'll have to link up.
Is that your leather works? You kind of
Yeah.
noted that was your okay. I'll
Yeah, I
have to
do all the
maybe get
leather work, and all the knife work, everything. If you go on my Instagram, you
That's
see
dope.
the blade swords. Like I make all that by hand. So
I'll
yeah,
have to check you out. You make any saddlebags for bikes by chance?
I haven't, but I'm pretty sure I could figure it out.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll be in touch after the show.
Oh
All right,
shit,
cool.
this guy's already looking at going in his pocketbook. But with that being said, we had a great time tonight. If you haven't been there, make sure you hit that motherfucking subscribe button. And hey, if you're gonna be in Vegas, what up, though? See you guys later. Peace.
Thank you guys.